Hey travelers, Mag, I, and Lightfoot13 here on day 302 of our trip around the United States. We have made it into Idaho and we are ready to take on the state. Because we are not doing any DeLorme pages, it gives us the ability to streamline our way through the state, unlike what we've done with pretty much every other state we've made our way through. So we will only be spending 5 days here in the state. We're going to be breaking that up a little bit. The first 2 days are going to be today and tomorrow, and those are going to be kind of our big city days as we follow along the interstate. We're starting off here in Rexburg with Lightfoot13, and then we're going to head through Idaho Falls and into Pocatello. From there, we'll be starting on to our second day, where we'll be spending the majority of it in Twin Falls. There are a ton of virtuals down there for us to go explore, and Ichan and I need to slow down just a little bit because we're going to be linking up with friends in a week and we want to hit that at the right time. That means we're going to have a lot more city time than we've had since really we got out of Kansas. From there, we'll be taking on the second half of Idaho, and that is going to be a lot more rural. But for now, let's go check out the cities between Rexburg, Idaho Falls, Pocatello, and Twin Falls over the next 2 days. Come on, let's go.
Welcome to Idaho, the gem state, with about 1.8 million people living here. Coming into the state through Rexburg, our very first stop is Idaho Falls, the county seat of Bonneville County, with a population of about 65,000 people. This major metropolitan area acts not only as the commercial, cultural, and healthcare hub for eastern Idaho, but also parts of Wyoming and Montana. Thanks to the cooperation of local businesses and the city of Idaho Falls, the downtown area has a very vibrant lifestyle, attracting many visitors coming through to Yellowstone, Grand Teton National Park, and the Craters of the Moon National Monument and Preserve. Our goal here in the city was to visit the Idaho Falls Public Library, which hosts not one, but 2 virtuals. While the first one was a bit humorous, pointing out an error on a local plaque, it was the second one I was really excited about, bringing us to a statue entitled Dreams Can Come True, based on Wilson Rawls, Where the Red Fern Grows. By the time we'd found our parking at the library, we'd had time to scope the city, and I knew that I wanted to take Ichan out along the Idaho Falls Riverwalk. If you only have time to see one part of Idaho Falls, I recommend it be this. The Riverwalk covers 5 miles on both sides of the Snake River, providing a spectacular way to see and explore what makes Idaho Falls so unique. To sweeten the deal even further, we fired up the Adventure Lab app and discovered Adventure Lab stages on both sides of the Riverwalk. The focus of the lab, oddly enough, is pointing out the interesting seating areas all along the walkway. Although the Adventure Lab only has 5 stages to it, it doesn't take long at all to figure out that there is no place to sit down in this park that is not a unique piece of artwork. It made for quite an entertaining scavenger hunt, as I wasn't only focusing on the stages for the Adventure Lab, but any of the other benches I could find in the area as well, while Ichan and I made our rounds. Definitely a walk through the heart of downtown that gets an A+ rating from the both of us. Strangely enough, the city's name came before the falls themselves. These 1,200-foot long falls, making their 20-foot plunge in the middle of the Riverwalk, did not make their debut until the early 1900s. Prior to that, the only waterfalls to be seen here were nothing more than a series of small rapids along the river. In 1909, the City Council, at the behest of Mayor Coltman, approved plans to build a hydroelectric power plant on the river. The project created an abundance of renewable energy for the city and the landscape of the falls seen today. As is so often the case when we come into cities, there are lots of geocaches for us to choose from as we make our way around the area. We picked out several that looked pretty interesting, bringing us into people's front yards and behind enemy lines in pursuit of ammunition. Fortunately for us, this depot seemed to have all the supplies we needed to get geared back up and get back on the road to keep making finds on the way through the city. Our first major spot of trouble came when we encountered the Gnome Patrol acting on security duty in front of this geocache's hiding place. With a little bit of coaxing though, we were able to convince him to clear the way so that we could get to the prize we sought just inside this tree. A very creative hide all around. While we certainly did enjoy ourselves making finds in Idaho Falls, let's not forget one of the best geocaches we found today, right when we began our journey in Rexburg.
Whenever we travel around, we love to have the opportunity to get to meet new geocachers. And As we came into our very first geocache here in Rexburg, the entire family was out with Lightfoot 13, so it was a perfect opportunity to say hi to a fellow veteran. Thank you for your service, by the way.
You're welcome.
And I always love to be able to introduce geocachers to you as well. So, how did you get involved in the game?
Started with one of my daughters in Texas. Started doing geocaching there when I was in my last deployment. When we came back, we went to the East Coast, and there's a lot of geocaches in Maryland, Virginia, up into Pennsylvania. So as we went around to see the different national historic and like Civil War battlefield sites, we would also geocache. Now that I'm retired, we're here. We got one of our own set up, and we still go around the area and see what's next.
And it's always geocaching as a family?
For the most part. Every now and then somebody will skip out, but
understandable, but it's great that you guys get to do it as a group activity. How many geocaches would you say you guys have found?
I believe that you were just talking about that, and I'm thinking it's just over 800.
Okay.
We've been doing it now since 2008.
And that's, how many states would you think that is?
Pushing 10 to 15.
Nice. That's pretty good travels you guys had. And what a long way to come from Maryland to be living here in Idaho now. What would you say are some of the greatest things about this state?
Well, one is the weather. While the summer can get warm, you don't break triple digits hardly. Now, late in the fall and kind of late into the spring, you do still have cold weather and some snow, but between now and end of July, nice weather.
And we'll be hoping we won't be seeing any more snow. Once we've come out of the mountains of Montana, that's it, we're done. Well, it was definitely very nice to meet you, and we really appreciate having a geocache to find here coming right into town. And we hope that your family continues to have many adventures.
Thank you.
See you on the trails.
All right.
Our next stop is Patriot Field in Blackfoot, the county seat of Bingham County, with a population of about 12,000 people. Dedicated on November 11th of 2016, this 2-acre park stands in memory of the veterans of Bingham County. It was created as a place of reflection to inspire a legacy of freedom for future generations. In Franklin County, the furthest southeast point that we'll be visiting in the state, we spot a new virtual on the map, published less than 30 days ago. It brings us along a short walking path with historical information teaching about the Bear River Massacre, which occurred on January 29th of 1863. It was not very long at all, though, until we found ourselves horsing around. What's up? On the way down there, we had passed the staircase at Red Rock Junction leading up to the top of a hill, and I knew on the way back we were going to have to make a climb to the top and see this amazing view for ourselves. With the last of our lights for the day beginning to fade away, we make our way into American Falls, the county seat of Power County, with a population of about 4,500 people. Unlike Idaho Falls, American Falls received its name from a true landmark waterfall found along the Snake River. Interestingly, you are not able to visit the original settlement located here as it is completely underwater, flooded by the American Falls Dam. Knowing that this would be the end result of the project, this is the first U.S. city to ever be moved in its entirety in 1925. Our next morning begins in Rupert, the county seat of Minidoka County, with a population of about 6,000 people. This city sprang into existence in 1906 following the announcement of the Minidoka Reclamation Project. The completion of the dam along the Snake River enabled plentiful irrigation for crops in the area and allowed the city's streets to be lit with electricity. Before heading into the next city, we stopped by the historic Rock Creek Station and Stricker Home Site. Listed in the National Register of Historic Places in 1980, this site was once an early transportation center serving the Oregon Trail, Overland Mail Stage Route, and the Kelton Freight Road. Even before then, it had served as a natural campsite for early Native Americans who had rested along the lush willow bottoms of the Rock Creek. It then became a regular stop for trappers, explorers, and settlers traversing the Snake River Plain. Visitors to the site can look forward to touring the Rock Creek Store Building, the Stricker Home, and the reconstructed Summer House. Just up the road from there, we come into the city of Twin Falls, the county seat and largest city in Twin Falls County, with a population of about 52,000 people. The city saw its humble beginnings as an offshoot of the nearby Rock Creek established in 1864. Its agricultural capabilities and population both dramatically increased following the construction of the Milner Dam in 1909. While exploring your way through the city, you can expect to catch many glimpses of its history through the various murals and statues spread around the streets. One of my favorite pieces is a statue titled A Vision of Tomorrow. This piece celebrates the role surveyors play in our past, present, and future, with the wisdom to see the past, the courage to have an effect on the present, and the vision to care about the future. On a stroll through the city park, you can also find the Twin Falls Millennium Sculpture. The boulders are placed upon a grid of the original town site, inscribed with words from citizens, past and present, noting obstacles faced by the valley's settlers. On the way into the city, we stop by the Twin Falls Hydroelectric Plant, one of 17 found along the Snake River. Despite its namesake, there is only one massive roaring fall to be found here, as its twin was dammed up to meet increased demand for irrigation and power. A little further west along the Snake River, at the northern edge of Twin Falls, we stop in to check out an Earth Cache, Virtual, and Adventure Lab in front of the Visitor Center. Together, they take us on a short trip under the Perrine Bridge, teaching us a little bit about the geology and history in the area. Looking along the canyon's edge about 2 miles east, you can also spot the ramp left over from Evil Knievel's jump on September 8th of 1974, where he attempted to clear this 500-foot deep, quarter-mile wide canyon. Our final stop in the city, still in pursuit of a virtual, is the Centennial Waterfront Park. This is one of those kind of places where getting here is half the fun, as you have to wind your way down Canyon Springs Road, past the scenic view of the Perrine Coulee waterfall. If you're lucky, you'll also have a great seat to watch people jump from the base of the bridge. Between Gooding and Fairfield, we stop off to enjoy the view over the Camas Prairie, named for the blue flowering camas plant, which was an important food source for Native Americans within the interior Northwest. You can find several of these prairies spread across the state, mostly on private land. Each prairie will beckon you to sit for a minute and enjoy the natural beauty of nature found around you. The one adventure along this stretch that I could not pass up on was crossing the Sheep Bridge over the Big Wood River. Ai-chan, as smart as she is, took one look at this rickety construction and said, "No thank you, I want no part of this. Leave me in the car while I watch." Perched high above the river, she had the perfect seat to enjoy the shenanigans, the whole time asking, why did the mag cross the bridge? The answer is a bit predictable though. To get to the geocache on the other side, of course. Out here, away from the cities, there were a surprising amount of geocaches to choose from, most of which were large enough to be able to hold swag. And now that I was done playing around on the very sketchy looking Sheep Bridge, Ai-chan was more than happy to jump out and join me on each of these finds. There are few things as satisfying in this game as popping the top on a container and discovering it is fully laden with stuff to trade. And it looks like we have just enough time for one more find along the borders of the Craters of the Moon National Monument. But these volcanic rocks are about as close as we're gonna come today. Fear not though, because the road still ahead in Idaho promises many beautiful sights to see. From here at the edge of the Salmon Chalice National Forest, we bed down for a good night of rest before getting ready to climb into the mountains in the morning. Easing in along the lower elevations of the Snake River in southern Idaho was the perfect way to start our tour of the state before ascending to the heights.
All right, and that is going to do it for our first 2 days spent here in Idaho. We began coming into the northeast corner of the state near Rexburg, and from there, over the last 2 days, we have been very grateful to be able to follow the interstate for our entire route. That means instead of being in some of the loneliest parts of the country, which we have been for the last couple of weeks, we were in cities the entire time with people and traffic, and we felt like we were part of the world, at least for a little while. That ends now though. From here, we're gonna be going north into the state, and the terrain's gonna start to look a lot more like this again. However, this is the only state we chose not to actively pursue the DeLorme pages for, and that is because of several reasons. One of those is on the northern edge of the state. We already have the counties that we need up there. If we're going to do those tiny little page slices, it's going to require a lot of extra routing through the mountains in northern Idaho, which didn't particularly want to deal with. The same thing for the eastern edge of the state. All of those pages over there are in the most mountainous parts of the state, and by skipping the DeLorme pages, we skip all of that unnecessary driving. And lastly, the very bottom southwest corner of Idaho, not a fun spot to have to get to either. So I'm glad that for this one state at least, we are choosing only to pursue the counties. I think that's going to make our drive going up north from here a lot easier than it would be otherwise. Thank you guys for joining us as we start our tour through the state. Looking forward to seeing what the rest of the state has in store for us, as long as we can avoid the worst of it. Like this video, subscribe, stay tuned for updates, and we'll see you out on the trails.